Is Gary recording this meeting, and is that a good idea?
That's what I said. This is going to end up being like a background track.
I know. I don't know.
Parties.
Hey, Gary, it'll be way more fun if this meeting's not recorded.
Ryan.
Hello.
Ryan.
Hey, Gary.
Gary's off fixing himself a drink or something.
Oh, hey, how's everybody doing?
Good. How are you? It's good to see you.
Good to see you too. Fantastic.
Yeah.
I like your backdrop.
Thanks. Big suck up wall here at APL.
That's good. So, Gary's not on yet. Is that the deal?
He's on. He's not showing himself.
He's showing me.
Oh.
It's Denise.
Hey, Denise.
Hey, Denise.
Hey, Denise.
How you guys doing?
Good.
Good.
I'm loving retirement.
I think Gary will too. He had a month off before he came back for his last week, and I think his first day back had a big smile on his face. He was also sad about having to get up for work.
Yeah, he's looking forward to it.
So is Gary recording this meeting?
I believe he is.
Okay. If he wants it recorded, then it shall be.
Hi, Sarah.
Hey, Denise. I'm doing a little double duty, but I didn't want to miss Gary's retirement and hear the fun chatter.
Good to see you.
Yeah, you too. Although I can't see you, but
Family's well?
yeah, I think so. We're hanging in there. Looking forward to warm weather like crazy.
Yes, I think we all are.
Is Gary going to join us and show his face?
I'm surprised. I'm surprised he isn't on yet.
He is on.
He's going to make a grand entrance.
He's probably making a pit stop.
Yeah, and he's the one recording. So yep.
I don't know where he is.
Hey, Denise, it's Larry Pfeiffer.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. I think Gary and I are about the oldest members of the Applied Physics Laboratory, at least in our department. Time.
Wow, Brian Truckenbrot. Hi.
Hey. Yeah. How you doing?
Say hi to Brian for me, Brian.
I will. I will.
Hi, Denise.
Hey, how are you?
Doing all right.
Good.
Oh, we got NetAcquire online.
NetAcquire Steve is aboard.
I don't know where he is.
Oh, everybody get
I'm
your
just
stories.
letting you all get acquainted with yourself.
Oh, there you are, Gary. We get to see your face. There you are.
Is that good enough?
That's perfect.
There he is.
We can all pin your video to see it the way we should.
Looks like he trimmed his beard.
That's perfect. So I was going to get this. So everybody get your stories ready, or tell a story, or if you have a story, please share one. I was going to start with just sharing a quick slide to celebrate Gary, and it probably won't embarrass him, but
too much.
That's no good.
I know. I'm going to try my best. So can folks there we go.
Looking good.
So
that mustache is amazing.
By saying thank you to Gary, and just highlight his history and everything he's done for the laboratory, this group, and our sponsors. You know, starting back with his service in the Navy on the Hunley and the Andrew Jackson, and then joining APL in the Strategic Systems Department and serving a 40-year career here. So it's really been remarkable, and your contributions, Gary, have spanned many, many projects and across generations here at the lab. That's why you see so many of us here. Just wanted to celebrate you as you go into the next phase of your life. some of his accomplishments, I'm not going to read them all there, but they are significant. And many of the first that the lab has done, from some of our first 3D printed rocketry tests recently to some of the first on developing models and analysis tools for our submarine fleet, Gary's been part of. 10 DASO launches, 10 or more. He couldn't even remember when I talked to him yesterday. And then he's the only person I know that's been aboard a Russian submarine. There may be others on the call that know that, but the length and the accomplishments over your career, Gary, have really been remarkable. And I want to thank you personally. I also have a story to tell about Gary. So when I started in this group, I was a section supervisor, a little baby child section supervisor, and Gary, at probably 30 years experience, was assigned to my section. And I didn't know Gary, didn't know his background, didn't know anything about him. And so day 2 or 3 of me being a section supervisor, Gary says, hey, why don't we go out to lunch and we'll talk and I'll tell you a little bit about myself. So we go into Laurel, have some lunch, and Gary, after some chit chat, promptly tells me all the programs he's never going to work on again. And I should never assign him to. All of the languages he will never program in. And when he didn't tell me his retirement date, he said, I have my retirement date picked out, but I'm not going to tell you. Because when you tell management your retirement date, they won't ever give you any good work after that. And so that was my introduction to Gary. And I walked away scratching my head a little bit, wondering, what this guy was all about. But over the last few years, it's been a pleasure to work with Gary. And my thought at the time was, boy, I hope this guy can keep himself covered. And not only did he keep himself covered, but the contributions he's made even in this last 10 years have been amazing. So that's my Gary story. I'm sure there's more on here. And I want to say thank you to Gary and good luck in your retirement.
Thank you, Chad. I remember that conversation.
That was a good one. I think we had sandwiches. Those were good sandwiches. And
I think we did most of our talking on the ride over.
Yes.
I think everybody's had that conversation with Gary too.
So who wants to embarrass me
Probably
next?
was one of my.
Yeah, so who else has a story? Now,
Work on again.
keep in mind, Gary is recording this.
Oh, and Denise is listening in too, so.
I'm waiting for Groom to say something. Hello, Rich.
I've got a story or two.
Hey, this is Dave Brown. I was Gary's first supervisor at APL, so I can fill in the backstory just behind Chad's. And I usually precede Richard's stories because I can tell the straight version and then he can make us laugh. So, but my first day as a group supervisor in navigation was Gary's first day working at APL. So he was fresh out of the Navy. I found that was useful for both of us since I had served and we sort of knew how that worked to have a supervisor. And we also were in submarines, so we knew that knowledge is power and not just authority. So we worked together really well. And I was most impressed with how well Gary could apply what he already knew from serving on subs and then go off pretty much on his own to learn all of that programming skills that we've taken advantage of in the years since then. And he not only got his degree, I think he probably was mostly self-taught in programming, but we ended up with the tools we needed in navigation for analyzing tons of time series data visually before the days when those visual analysis tools had become common. And so for those of you who never saw what Gary could do for Windows on a mainframe in the 80s, that was my introduction to his skills.
Everything good? Yeah, that looks great. Yeah.
And then I was always pleased to see that Gary could take advantage of the opportunities that came up, and all the people here know that they could provide those opportunities and give Gary room to grow and room to excel, and that's pretty much all it took. And Gary's not as old as Larry Pfeiffer, neither am I. But,
No, most people aren't.
okay.
That's okay.
So thanks, Gary. It was great having you excel with me close by to watch. And it was good to see you and Denise pull off your tricks also and make a successful life for yourselves together. And she beat you into retirement by what, less than a year, right?
Yeah, less than a year.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure she set a good example. Ann set a great example for me. And I guess I'll just warn you that retirement's a little more like being in a quarantine or a pandemic. So you've been training for it a little bit lately. And watch out, you already knew that when you start working for the Navy, your hair grows. But hopefully there aren't too many other physical changes to challenge you. And I know you'll keep your mind going and you'll find things to be creative with. And I hope there's a time when we can gather in the Gray Mouse Bar again someday.
Well, I wanted to thank you for allowing me to explore what I wanted to explore. I wouldn't have got where I was without you letting me go.
Yeah, the lab was a little more rigid, I would say, at the time. So it was fun to be your buffer between your creativity and freedom and some other supervisors who had different ideas. I think it worked out best for everybody.
Yes, I survived 3 attempts to have me fired, as I recall.
Oops, sorry.
All part of the adventure.
Yeah. Adventure. Okay, that's a good word for it. Thank you.
You're more
Folks,
than
I heard apocryphally that Gary has a nickname. I'm wondering if anyone can explain the origin of it. Scary Gary.
Where'd you hear that one?
From somebody who knew you on submarines.
Oh.
It wasn't me.
No story?
I'm not sure where that came from. If you know who it was on the submarine, I might be able to give you a little more information, but you know, I probably scared a lot of people.
It was a number of years ago, and it was someone I encountered at ITC, but I don't recall specifically who it was.
Well, tell them I said hello.
All right.
Thanks, Steve. I'm glad you got to join in here.
Yes, it was a great honor to be asked to be invited. We did some challenging projects with you, and we enjoyed all the time we got to spend working with you and the other folks there.
And they're all still in use.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've told people that your shoebox is probably the most reliable piece of hardware on the boat.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you. We're working on a new project for Brian, and we have hopes that it'll give him everything that he needs.
I'm sure it will. Hello to the rest of your comrades out there, out west.
We're doing well. We're doing well. The great majority of us are working from home. There's a few like me that come in every day just to keep all the systems working so everybody can connect in. But we're all looking forward to all of our Department of Defense customers being able to go back to their regular day jobs at their desks so that we can be busier than we are now.
All right. Well, thank you and best wishes to all of you.
Thank you.
Come on, Richard. I know you're just dying to talk.
Go, Richard, go.
All right, I've got 1 or 2 stories. So I was in the nav group when Gary showed up, and I took him under my wing and made him into the mean, lean fighting machine that you see in front of you right now. Anyway, and so I've got 2 stories that I'll kind of roll out here. One has to do with Gary's interest in automobiles. Back in the day, a long time ago, he had this beater of a pickup truck, and it wasn't running exactly well. And Denise had a family member that had a machine shop, and the machine shop was available without any issues at all. And so Gary decided he was going to take this beater in and rebuild the motor. So he takes it in, and he's got every tool imaginable to man. Goes in, removes the engine, and if nothing else, this engine will be clean on both the inside and the outside when he's finished. So he goes in there, and every Monday he'll come into the lab and he'll sit down and he'll give us the story about whatever nut that wouldn't come off or whatever element of the rebuild activity he was involved with. But it was always an engaging discussion about the kind of more of the back tree yard mechanic trying to fix a machine that wasn't running well. Anyway, so he puts the machine back together, the engine back together, and he's only got a few parts left over. As we all know, I mean, engines have got way more pieces than they probably really need. So he had a few that were left, but that was fine. So he sticks it back in the truck, and it kind of starts, and it needed some, hand holding to get it running well. And then it kind of ran okay, I guess. And let me end the story by saying he bought another truck. Not that he didn't do a marvelous job in rebuilding the engine, but I think he was looking for something that had a little bit more get up and go. Anyway, but the more interesting story is one of the elements you mentioned. Somebody mentioned the fact that he'd been on a submarine down DASOs and lots of them. So he and I participated in the USS Maine's DASO back in 1995. And it was during this DASO, a guy named Admiral Pete Nanos from SP Director had decided that he wanted to improve the performance of the Trident II weapon system. And one of the things he wanted to do was to kind of leverage off of some of the navigation stuff and change it around. So he asked what we could do in order to change the output of the nav subsystem on the fire control guidance side. And to do that, everybody was working hard, Lockheed Martin and everyone, but nobody had tested it on board a boat. So here we are at DASO, getting ready to launch this missile, and we knew that somehow somebody needed to make a decision. Are the signals that are now coming out of this brand new method okay to launch this Trident II missile for DASO? So Gary comes up with a plan to do a tap into the network and do a real-time display of data so that we could determine whether or not this new signal was okay to launch the missile. And he did this, and this is before laptops and smartphones. And so what he did is he had a PC that was a tower. So he lugs his PC down onto the boat with his brand new program and a monitor and a keyboard, and he duct tapes the tower PC to a stanchion in the nav center. The Lord only knows, I've forgotten what you did in order to keep it was probably a CRT display for a video, but it doesn't matter. So he got it all lugged down there, and he plugs it in. Lo and behold, we're watching this real-time display, only to find out that Admiral Nanos, Pete, was also a PC geek, and he wanted to spend as much time in the nav center looking at this screen, and while we're watching this real-time display come along, Gary had to continually remind him to get out of the way because he had work to do. Anyway, it was a marvelous device, and in fact, to this day, the basis for that instrumentation suite is used on every Trident II DASO launch and special tests.
Thanks.
Huh?
Wow.
Anyway, so to Gary's credit, what we have today for an onboard real-time display is based upon Gary's 1995 effort to come up with a solution. And Pete Nanos loved every moment of it, and it worked like a charm, and the missile came off. The performance was marvelous, and everybody was happy. So there's a testament, Gary, to what you had developed, and it's one of the test instrumentation suites that we now use regularly on all BNs. Now, the last part of the story is, Gary, and maybe we'll save this for later, there were some moments while we were in Cocoa Beach where we spent a moment or two.
We're not going to let this story go by.
I shan't describe any of the details of some of the times we had at Cocoa Beach while we were waiting to get underway, but I can assure you, perhaps the next time one of the local bars opens up and we're sharing a beer, we can reminisce about some of the specific episodes that went on during our Cocoa Beach efforts. So anyway, have fun. See ya.
Thank you, Richard. My favorite part of the Pete Nanos story was when that DESO was over and we were pulling into port. The department head at that time was Don Edens, and he and I were standing in the nav center, and Pete Nanos was asking me about some of the software pieces. He was an OS2 guy. That's why he was really interested, because it was an OS2 operating system. And he said, in front of Don Edens, he said, "Wait, let me go get my business card." And he ran back to his stateroom to get his business card to hand to me. And Don Edens just looked at me and he says, "Wow." So yes, I still have Pete Nanos' business card in my bar top as evidence. I don't know if a lot of you know, but Pete Nanos eventually came to work at the lab. He was here for maybe about a year and a half. So anyway, he was a good guy. I enjoyed working with him.
It was fun watching you and he kind of trying to move each other out of the way in front of this real-time display of data. He clearly wanted to watch. And of course, all the sailors and the captain are sitting around wondering, well, why is the admiral in the nav center all the time? Why isn't he out here in control?
I think also on that test, there was an unexplained change in the gravity vector of the navigator that came out in the analysis. And I just think it was because of all the heavy brass that was standing around the navigators at the time of the launch, that they actually deflected the vertical, the gravity vertical, while everybody was standing around the navigation. That's my story.
I can assure you that some of the local vertical stuff occurred in the evening at Cocoa Beach too. There were some problems. Later.
I still have the scars.
I've got a story that I think I can build off of Chad's experience. I think it still goes back to Gary's, let's say, personality that we can most beneficially call candid. That is very similar to Chad's experiences. I had the pleasure of working with him as my first time as project manager. I'd only been working 3 years, and we were instrumenting a mini submersible from the Navy SEALs so that we could develop a model for it. And he did a fantastic job. We got what we needed. It worked well, and I would get, yearly updates that the data acquisition system that he had built was still in the pressure vessel and sending out data. But as I was trying to manage that project as the first time ever, I was trying to talk with Gary about how are we doing configuration management and documentation in case, he gets hit by a bus, so somebody knows what to do and how to pick up. And Gary's response to me is like, well, why would I care about that? I've been hit by a bus. And as we've moved forward, I've had the pleasure of continued working with Gary, and we're bookending it on a very similar project where we're instrumenting a different submersible. And this time the stories are the same, except hit by a bus has been replaced with retirement. So Gary, it's been a pleasure working with you, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you, Adam. And I want you to know that blue light is still blinking in my office.
I'm glad to hear it.
I was going to say, I'm going to jump in on that too with Gary getting hit by a bus. As we've heard that on the rocket program a few times, and we are attempting to have someone step in, and we're quickly finding out how much Gary can do and how much he did for us. And so everyone here knows that Gary's going to be impossible to replace. But just a quick story here of just imagine Gary's creativity with what he could do in a submarine. Now give him a rocket motor and say, hey, Gary, what can you do? And it may or may not be scary, but the good news is he won't be able to do any more damage with it. But he was able to put in some fail safes for us. So when our rocket actually was about ready to blow up, it actually didn't, because he saved it. So with his abilities there. So thank you very much, Gary. And just as a quick note to you, make sure I think you're coming back in the lab today, make sure you come on by. We've got some fun things for your bar, for some fun displays. And then we've got some fun wall art for you. to decorate the walls with. So just they're in my office, Gary. So just make sure you stop by. Okay.
All right, thanks. I will. And thanks for including me on that project. That was actually the only thing that kept me from killing myself the last few years at the lab.
Well, thank you.
So allow me to take a few minutes. So most of you don't know this, but Gary and I shared an office at one time. And so for those of you who may not be familiar, that was an adventure that lasted, what, 3 years, right, Gary?
That sounds about right.
So, that gave me a deep insight on different aspects of Gary, but I think the most remarkable one was his communication with President Carter. And I think Gary sent President Carter a letter, and I think he responded back, and he wasn't clear. It was not clear to President Carter whether Gary was mad at him or he was complimenting him. So that is, I think, a testament to Gary's frankness.
I can expand on that a little bit. I wrote a letter to him to say that he was my commander in chief for most of the time that I was in the Navy, and I thanked him for not. Let's see. I have to say that a little bit differently. I was in the Navy for the only 6-year period that you could have been in the military after the Korean War where there was not a war. So I didn't qualify for the red and yellow national defense ribbon because I wasn't in during a war, and I thanked him for that. He wasn't sure if I was complimenting me or if I was complimenting him or what, but he is still my favorite president. Nobody has done more for peace than President Carter.
Did you get a response?
Oh yeah, I did. I got a response. I have it somewhere.
Yeah, I saw this. It came in. He shared it with me. He said, "Here's a letter from President Carter." So that was a fun time. Every day I came in, you had no idea what to expect because there was something entertaining going to happen.
One thing about Pankaj is we learned right away that we had a lot in common, and it's because Pankaj is only 30 days older than I am. Is that right? 30 days,
Yes.
1 month older than me?
Exactly.
He moved to Maryland at the same time. We both came to the lab. Well, no, he came to the lab a little after me, but we had a lot in common, and it sure showed in our relationship. We didn't have any trouble getting along, that's for sure.
And I think after you left, that was the last office mate I had, right? You went to your corner office right after that. So I don't think I think that was the last of the line. I was the last of the line there.
That was in 8178. You remember the black plastic room numbers, and then they would have
Yes.
under them the names. I still have that, the one with
Yes.
yours and my name on it. I still have it. I just packed it up out of my office.
Exactly.
Thank
Alrighty.
you, Pankaj.
Thank you,
Best
Gary.
wishes to you.
You too.
So Gary, it's Mark. I wanted to, we've worked on a few things together over the years, and certainly your greatest accomplishments are submarine related masterpieces. But for this group, there are probably very few people that know that in the mid 90s, the lab was actually worried a little bit about the defense spending. And we took a little foray into the transportation world. And at the time, I was being rescued from the ODAP program, and I hope somebody here will have some ODAP stories. But you may remember that we took on the task of an entirely different instrumentation sensor system. We were tasked with developing an electronic weigh station for the state of Maryland. And of course, none of us had ever worked on such a thing. You know, the idea that you could actually have trucks coming down the highway and you'd weigh them in motion, and then you'd bring some into the weigh station depending on what they weighed, and you do other measurements and whatnot. And so I was managing this project, and I had no idea how we were going to do it, what we were going to do. And you were the lead on the software development there. And I think we spent a lot of hours up there in Perryville, Maryland, working on that, something entirely different. This was the mid 90s, and it was kind of a nice break for me from the ODAP world. I think you enjoyed it, and I think some of the data acquisition stuff you did at that time ended up working its way into some of your other creations. So just thinking about all the things we worked on, that kind of stuck out as one of the oddest things that I've ever worked on at APL, and I don't know what you remember about that experience.
Well, what I remember is standing on Interstate 95 at 2 o'clock in the morning, cutting holes into the pavement. that was something that not many people can say they've done, that's for sure. But remember, we first worked together on crossflow. So for those of you who don't know what crossflow was, that was measuring the water flow across the launch deck of a Trident submarine. Mark had a bunch of sensors on there, and we were able to look at that data in real time too. That was a fun project, and I think I probably still have that data.
I still get questions about that data.
Well, thanks, Mark. It's been a real pleasure working with you as well on ODAP too, but we'll let somebody else talk about ODAP.
Yeah, you're one in a million.
I'm going to jump in on the ODAP one because I think I was part of the rescue process of us both getting out of some of ODAP anyways. And I'm also leveraging on, I think you took over my office. So that nice corner office was mine before it was yours, as I remember.
I had it for 10 years. I just moved out of it about a year and a half ago.
You're killing. That's probably one of my favorite offices I've ever had. That was just a phenomenal city. And you got the front part of it too. So I was envious of that. The thing that I remember, Gary and I got the opportunity to work on a lot of CBP stuff, or a couple CBP stuff. And hearing these stories, I'm realizing Gary's a bit of a one-trick pony. He's invented the software and he kept on reusing it. So good for you, Gary, because that's what you use with CBP as well. But the story for us is that, with CBP, we were flying out throughout the country, and we've built a data acquisition system. Gary built it, and we're installing it in various locations. And Gary, I don't know if you remember, but we were at that one place, and you got the stink eye from the drug dealer as we were installing it in that one space. So we go out and we're installing this to keep track of inbound or in-bond cargo as it arrives, and it has a camera system. And the drug dealers are realizing, and notoriously bad people are realizing, that this could expose them. And so as Gary's installing it, he's giving very threatening looks and gestures to Gary. I think, Gary, was that one of the more disheartening installations you've ever had?
Well, it was a fun project to work on, that's for sure. But I can say that after looking at some of the data, I guess I can say this now, I hope nobody else is listening, but I figured out how they were getting the drugs off the trucks and out into the real world, but I never bothered telling anybody because I didn't need to be a target. When we went to take that system down, they were very threatening to us. Mark Gaither was with me when we did that, and I didn't tell Mark the full story, so I don't think he realized just how much danger we were possibly in, because we were right in the middle of the drug smuggling area of Laredo, Texas. So yeah, that was fun. But in the end, I kind of told them, I kind of eased their mind that there wasn't really anything they had to worry about, and you can just go ahead and keep distributing your drugs. I won't bother you.
Well, thank you. As a U.S. citizen, I want to thank you for that. But Gary, the best part of all that, I would say, is, we never flew directly into Laredo or the other places we went, for the most part. And so you and I inevitably had hours of car rides together. And man, we had some good conversations, mainly me querying you and getting lots of good information on your thoughts, and really, really nice. So I thank you very much for that. That's been one of my.
Don't forget, we saw the sunset at Hollywood Hills.
I remember that.
That was
we
fun.
went up, yeah, did lots of stuff. So thank you very much for all that.
Thank you, Dave.
So I do want, this is a Paul. Hey, Gary. I don't have any huge stories of projects that we've worked on other than
That's
maybe,
okay. I have one when you're done.
I know that we were together during ODAP, and as much as I don't have any tasking or anything like that I can remember, but I do remember you were the guy that basically gave me a tour with the approval, of course, of the sailors on board. I can't remember if it was for the Cheyenne or if it was for another boat, but I had that rare moment where you escorted me again with the approval of the sailors to the backside, the back end of the boat to see the reactor. And I was like, are we allowed to do this? And he kind of looked at the sailor and said, yeah, he's good to go, right? And the sailor's like, yeah, he's good to go. And I'm thinking, how does Gary have the power tell a sailor that I'm okay to go into this boat, which by the way was one of the first introductions of being on the boat. So I, was really thrilled to know that Gary could give me this opportunity and tell me all about the reactor and why it's completely white in that side versus everything else being gray on the forward end. And at one point he decided to put his whole body against the wall closest to the nuclear reactor. I'm thinking, is that safe? I was like, yeah, sure, you should try it. I'm thinking, I don't know what this guy is doing. So I had this impression that either this guy's completely crazy or he's like really amazing. And I'm just like trying to learn as much as I can from him. But from that point on, I always thought that Gary was a pretty amazing person. And it's obviously, you can tell by the stories that you're hearing now that he is. So Gary, I don't have any like real technical stories, to say how amazing you are, but I must say that as a person, you are, it was pretty awesome getting to know you. So I do appreciate that. And I really do hope that you have a really good time in your retirement, which by the way, is I think another 20 more years before I get to that point, but no worries. I'll do my due diligence and I'm glad that you're there already. So thank you much. Thank you so much for that.
Well, thank you, Paul. Now it's my turn to tell the story about you.
Oh, no. Oh, wait a second. How did this turn around?
So the project that you forgot was the dolphin.
I
Right. So,
yeah.
So the dolphin project,
about that one.
so the dolphin is the world's deepest diving submarine. It's gone now. It's a museum in San Diego now. But we were tasked with replacing their digital display system in the control center. Basically, that's what our task was. And Paul was the project manager for that. And my favorite story was, it was Paul, myself, and Ken Sparks. Some of you remember Ken Sparks. So Paul was on the phone with somebody about this, and he was talking, and Ken and I were sitting in the office, and Paul was getting frustrated because he was having trouble communicating with the sponsor who he was talking to. And Ken and I were trying to, in the background, tell him, kind of feed him some answers for the sponsor. And he looked at us and went, shh. And Ken and I just looked at each other and laughed.
Oh my God. Did I really do that? Obviously, I was naive and inexperienced.
It's all a learning experience, right? So that was my favorite Paul story, was when he looked at Ken Sparks and me and shushed us. That was
I think I got retribution from Ken ever since then.
Yeah, well, hey.
I'm sure I did.
You survived.
Lost a couple of, yeah. If you can survive Ken, I think you're doing pretty well. So
it was unfortunate that we never actually got to install that boat because they decommissioned it just before we put it on. But I still have the cardboard, the project thing that they made. I don't know, that they hang on the walls that say these are projects.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Still on the back of the
little
door
poster board.
That's still on the back of the door in the office. I kept it.
Yeah,
So
that's pretty cool.
Come by and get it.
No, you can hold on to that one. That's fine. I mean, that was definitely a challenging project, but there were some good moments in that one too.
Yes,
so I do appreciate you. I do totally appreciate you being part of that. And again, just keep on learning and being surrounded by awesome people like you and Ken, and obviously many more. So just a good example of striving to be better. So
well, thank you, Paul, and best wishes to you as well.
Awesome.
Gary, this is Tom Chris. I just want to say hi. Been good working with you, and best wishes.
Thanks, Tom. When are you retiring?
Actually, I was paying attention when I got to retirement age, and so I missed it. Now it's too late.
Well, thanks, Tom. I know we've had a lot of fun. Are you still just using Fortran?
Yes. Yeah. People put up with me.
Well, I know how that works.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Tom. Best wishes, and I know you have a family member at the lab as well.
2 of them.
Oh, 2. Wow, great.
Yeah.
So you'll always be in the loop.
Right.
Well, thanks, Tom.
Hey, Gary, this is Roland Catalano of the APL Travel Office. I'm really enjoying listening to the impressive stories of your accomplishments. You've taken a lot of trips for the lab over the years, obviously. Similar to Chad describing earlier, he had with you early on, and you setting the work arrangements straight, I guess I also benefited by your, shall we say, frank perspective of what the APL travel program shall look like. You were never reluctant to share your ideals, and you had constructive ones, and you were very helpful in making APL travel better for your fellow staff members. And for that, I'm very appreciative. And I just want to say it's been a pleasure over many years, and I wish you and Denise the best in your retirement years.
Thanks, Roland. I know we had a few tough moments in there, but it all worked out in the end.
It certainly did.
All right. Well, thank you very much, and good luck to you.
Thank you, Roland.
Thank you, guys. It's been a pleasure.
Gary, this is Jill Pumphrey. How you doing?
Hi, Jill. How are you?
I'm great, thanks.
Denise is
Hi,
on
Jill.
the line as well.
Hey, Denise. Hi.
Hi, girlie.
How are you doing?
Good.
I miss you. I miss you. So, Gary, on my desk, I'm in building 6 now. Oh, I remember ODAP quite well. I see a lot of ODAP faces on this call. And I still have the eraser you gave me, Gary. Do you remember giving me a piece of an eraser?
What, a half? A half?
Yeah, you gave me a half of an eraser. And it's like, well, Jill, when, you know, life gets rough, just erase the parts of it you don't want to bother you. Just use this eraser and hold it in your hand and just think, you know, life goes on. You don't have to be stressed out about things. I still have that piece of eraser on my desk. I've had it for like 16 years that I've been at the lab. I wrote your name on it and the date on it, but I'm working from home today, so I can't tell you what that date is. But yeah, it was a pleasure working with you always.
Well, I hope the rest of your career goes as well. You must be getting close to retirement.
Well, you know, let's hope so. I would like to get there myself. I'd like to think I would be able to do some traveling, but who knows with the pandemic if one can retire and travel anymore.
Well, maybe
But
Roland Catalano can help you out there.
Yeah, Roland and I are well versed in travel. He's my go-to person when I have questions and problems, and always solves them for me. Thank you, Roland.
Thank you, Jill. I appreciate that.
Yes. Thanks so much for your help for all these years. So Gary and Denise, I hope you have a great time, and we won't lose touch.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I follow you on Facebook.
Oh, thanks. Take care.
You too.
Bye.
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 Hey, Gary.
Oh, there we go.
Larry Pfeiffer. Just want to say congratulations. It's been really fun. Your contributions to all the things that we've done are enormous, and we're going to miss you. Anyway, congratulations to you and Denise.
Thanks, Larry.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's always been nice to see you wandering the halls from time to time.
Right. Thank you. Well, you too, but maybe we'll see each other again someday.
Yeah, well, we only live 4 miles away, so there's a chance.
Good.
Thank you, Larry.
Hi,
Best
Gary.
wishes.
Hi, Gary. It's Maria.
Oh, there you go. You hadn't popped up on my screen yet. Hi, Maria. How are you?
I'm good. I think about you every day. Do you want to know why?
How are things over in Montpelier?
They're good, but I get to work from home now, telework, like officially. So I'm so happy. But I think about you guys every day. Do you know why?
No.
Do you want to know why?
Remember, this is being recorded.
I'll tell you.
I want to know why, Maria. I would love to hear this.
Because every time when I was in the group, every time the guys would go on travel, I would ask them to bring me something back from their trips because I had 4 young kids. I never got to go anywhere but Walmart. And I made that perfectly clear every day. But Gary brought me back a lot of things, but you gave me Hard Rock Cafe magnetic bottle openers from every city that you went to. So I have them. What's great about them is I have them stuck on my kitchen door. And my son just turned 21, if you can believe that. So we use them actually. They used to just be sticking somewhere, but now we actually use them and we're very grateful for them. Besides all the other mementos, they're everywhere in my house. But yeah, every time I walk in my kitchen, I think about you.
Well, thanks. There are some other magnets around the lab as well. So you're not the only one that got those.
That's awesome. I think your face is up in a ceiling tile somewhere too in the lab. I think I
Wow.
did that before I left. I took a picture of your face. I also did it for me and Melissa. So there you go. Maybe one day they'll find it.
Maybe.
Well, congratulations. I'm jealous.
Well, thank you, Maria. It's nice chatting with you.
Yeah, and I brought Brian. Do you see Brian in here? Brian Truckenbrook?
Yep.
I'm drug him along.
Well, thank you very much. And I'm sure Denise says thank you as well.
Yeah, and we're friends on Facebook too, so we'll keep in touch.
So Brian, tell us about your retirement. Brian Truckenbrook. Oh no, did he leave?
Hey, nope, I got it. Hey, Gary.
Brian, how are you?
I'm doing great. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. I'm just trying to follow your lead.
Yeah, well, it's hope you have as much fun as I have. Just one quick thing, quick story. Bad storyteller. Everybody knows that. And I remember when I first I was a fledgling assistant group with John Tochko. And one of the first jobs I had was to talk to you about your letters. When Pankaj said you wrote one to the president, I guess it was just minor stuff when you wrote a letter probably every week or every month to the front office, explaining how things should be run and what we should be working on. And I had to talk to you and say, you know, could you please stop?
You're not talking
So
about
you either stopped.
You're not talking about
or
the
you-
one I
you-
sent to Roca, are you?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you wanted to work on green technology. You thought the lab should be working on green technology.
Yep.
And we'd get all that. We'd get the responses back from everybody, and John would get them. And of course, John just pointed at me, and I tried to sweet talk you. I don't know if it worked, but
Well, I didn't do it anymore.
well, thanks.
What I did was I put a yellow sticky on my monitor that said no email.
Well, I appreciate that, and appreciate all the work. Times we worked together. I know we came in kind of late together. When I came into that group, but appreciate all the work that you helped us with, and I'm sure a lot of people are sorry to see you go, but I think it's a good thing. So congratulations again, and best wishes.
Thank you, Brian. You remember when we first met?
There's one. I don't know if that was the time on the side of the highway when I was coming back from. I was away from the lab for a while, and I was driving.
No. Before that, we met at a dance.
Oh.
It was an ODS dance. And you
How
were
was I
there with
dancing?
Barbara, and I was there with Denise. It was an ODS thing in Baltimore.
I don't remember that.
I do.
Yeah.
Well, that was the
Memorable.
first time we met. You were already working at the lab at the time.
Oh yeah. Good memory. I have a bad memory, so sorry.
Well, I could be remembering it all wrong too. So
Could have been somebody else you were dancing with.
True.
Well, best wishes to you and Barbara on your retirement. I hope all goes well with you too.
Yeah, so far so good. Thanks.
Oh, and I did take some of your retirement advice, and that helped set us up for what we're doing. So
Yeah, good.
We are. I think we're in a pretty good shape. We don't have to worry about anything.
Excellent. Good.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Have a nice trip in retirement.
Hey, Gary, it's Deepu. I just wanted to say the last 7 years, I appreciate your guidance. You and me grew up in the same neighborhoods, kind of growing up back in Philly area. I listen to you more than anybody else around here, so they can thank you for the product that they have to deal with in the future. I hope you do a lot of drugs. Weed, I hear weed helps with things. Kind of jealous. And I'll see you in 30 minutes.
All right. Thanks very much.
This is being recorded, right?
Absolutely.
I hope you do other drugs. All the drugs.
Oh my.
Before Deepu talked, I was going to say it's really awesome to be at such a great retirement where everybody has all these fun, happy stories, and then Deepu just tells you to go have drugs. You know, you never
It's
know what a
medicinal.
retirement party's going to bring.
Well,
That's not how
Deepu's
these things
a
work.
green
I
guy
don't get
as
invited
well,
to
right?
party as much.
But Misty, it's medicinal, right? That's what it has to be. That's
Of
what you're talking
course.
about, right, Deepu? I mean,
It's prescriptive. Yes.
prescriptive,
Nope,
right?
that's not what I'm
Yes.
talking about.
I do remember Gary showing off. It was a framed citation or framed infraction letter that he got from EH&S or from security when I started working at the lab. And I'm thinking, is this normal? We're supposed to like showcase our infractions on the wall? And then I'm like, okay, this guy's fun. This is going to be a good time. But hasn't let me down yet. So I do appreciate that.
I think that was from the fire department.
Oh, yeah, from the fire department. Yep, that's right.
Gary, I have always admired your fearless adherence to basically sticking to your guns and you know, following your own moral code, right? So you're not afraid to just do what you know is right, and get things done in the Gary way. And I admire that, and I'm gonna miss you.
Thanks, Brian.
Double on that one.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was reading a little note at the same time. I got a little. Thank you, Bob. And I hope you take all that software stuff further. I know you're OEPing, right?
That's right. So trying to decipher, decode, reconstruct your legacy down there. And so, you know, all the professional accomplishments that we've been listing, they are endless. And we can't say enough about all the things that you managed to accomplish professionally. But I think that we should also mention that Gary is one of the last holdouts from a more familiar and friendly culture, and that too will be missed.
Yeah, man, when you least expect it, me and Bob are going to show up shit-faced in your yard, and I'll be in a hazmat suit.
Again?
Again. After
That's what life's about, man.
Yep.
I believe that picture is still hanging in the group office.
It is. It made for a great COVID picture. People didn't realize that was 4 or 5 years ago, maybe.
Yeah, I think that was when I was home with pneumonia.
That was the kind of story I was hoping to hear.
Anybody else?
I'll just jump in. Gary, it's Brian Mersch. We
Brian.
haven't worked on a ton of projects together, but when I was still relatively new at APL, I guess I still am, but on CMOB, I think when I look back years later about Gary, and somebody says his name and I'll have some picture in my head, I think of Gary as kind of my exposure to an APL hacker is how I would put that, right? A little bit of mischief, very, very smart, but as others have said, gets the job done, isn't sitting there, quarreling, stuck in analysis. So every good engineer needs a little bit of that to make interesting things happen. So best of luck to you, Gary. It's been a pleasure. And I've learned a lot from you, even though I don't do anything that you do. I've learned a lot from you. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian, and good luck on all of your rude dog.
Yes, thanks.
I want to echo that. Gary's obviously always gets the job done. There are times when we've been on a field test, and I remember there was one piece of code that wasn't working primarily because the other half, the Navy half of the code, wasn't documented the way it should have been. And I mean, this was like all day on a Saturday, Gary, on his own time, spent getting it fixed and getting it working and just making sure it all worked correctly. And just, it was his personal mission to get it fixed and get it correct. So as as a couple people said, the professional accomplishments, I think, are because he cares about getting the job done right. As far as, just the insights on life shared as we're working through those professional compliments, I'll think of those frequently, and we'll miss you, Gary.
Thank you, Dave. It's been a pleasure working with you as well. You're one of the project managers that just let me do what I needed to do, and that was always very helpful. Oh, and I appreciate
it's easy when you
I appreciate being able to use your budgets too.
Time. The other thing, as the lab has made it increasingly difficult to buy any sort of IT gear. Now that we're in retirement, I can, I've on multiple occasions, Gary's like, I don't want to deal with property. This is $20 to buy it on my own. I'm buying it on my own and donate it to the lab, because there's so that's the other piece of Gary, I think, drive to get the job done is he got the pieces we needed and got it integrated.
Thank you very much, Dave, and I hope the rest of your career goes well.
Gary.
Hey, we've heard from all the Davids except Steigerwald. He's hanging out in the background, and I don't know if there's any OEP stories that can be told, but I wanted to say hi to David and call him out for retiring too early. So there must be some other lessons there for Gary.
You're calling me out for retiring too early. I don't think there is such. First of all, I'm disappointed, or maybe some people were disappointed about that I was showing up too much.
All right, so David, I'm sorry, I want to interrupt real quick. Gary, it's Michael. How you doing?
All right, yourself?
Still here, I guess. Hey, I got to run to another meeting, but I wanted to say goodbye. I don't have any funny stories other than, I don't know, I don't even remember how long I've been at the lab, 4 or 5 years now. And I do remember, just so you know, you were like the first real thing I did since I came to the lab. I don't remember if you remember when you and I and Dale went out on that boat out to Severn, and we went out and played with those radars. That was like the first thing I ever really did at the lab. So I don't know. So I was one of those people that one of my very first introductions to work at the lab was you. And I just want to say that I always enjoyed all the times we talk. I think most of our times I just show up in your office, get blinded by the sun through your window, and we just chat about random stuff. I don't know. I just always enjoyed it. All the fun history about technology and the other things that we would talk about and share was always awesome. I always like all the fun things you always shared in the email. You're the only person that does that, shares random videos and things that happen. I always thought that was awesome. I'm going to be sad to see you go. I don't get to see you anymore since you moved out of your office and we've all been in COVID, but I hope you have a good retirement.
Thanks. I want to tell you one story about that when we did go out on that boat ride. What I remember the most about it was the morning that we were going, after I had spent the night before preparing anything. You kind of showed up just a little bit late because you didn't think everything would be ready. Because you said that's usually what happened. It's not ready when you go, and everything was waiting. We were all waiting on you, and everything worked the way it was supposed to, and you were surprised.
Yeah, well, I know you did a good job. It was nice to learn all about DAC, man. That was DAC, man. I learned all about that stuff. It was fun. I didn't do anything useful. I just sat in the boat and watched you guys do all the work. But
well, you took the notes.
I did. We played around with that little LiDAR a little bit and some other stupid things, but it was good.
Well, thank you, Mike. I hope your career goes well. And I know you're working a lot with, I guess you're still working with the Bobs, right? The orange boats?
Some of this, some of that. Yeah, I stay busy now. Life's changed a lot in the 5 years that I've been here. I'm sure just like it did for your entire career. So,
well, enjoy your Mustang.
Still have it. I'm glad to meet you though, Gary. It was awesome.
Thanks, Mike.
Have a good retirement.
Gary, on behalf of Chad and anybody else who had to step off early for various things going on at work today, all of us send you our love and wishes for having a fantastic retirement with Denise and enjoying your well-deserved time off. We really appreciate all that you have done during your career at the lab. If you ever need anything, you know how to reach us all. So
Well,
Thanks,
thanks,
dear.
Missy. I want to say one more thing before everybody goes. I couldn't have done any of this. I couldn't have done any of this without the support of my wife. And I want to thank her.
Denise, you're awesome. That's great.
Thank you, dear. Now we can play together. Thank you for all the kind words you've said about my husband. He's a good guy.
Well, once the COVID restrictions lift and I get vaccinated, I'm expecting to be on my way out to Wallops 2 or 3 times a year, and I'm looking forward to checking in with Gary and Denise and seeing if I can stop by the Gray Mouse for a Guinness.
Absolutely.
We also intend to hopefully hold a very huge KMT retirement party for all the folks that have departed during COVID. So we'll be reaching out to people to let them know when we're able to have all those beers together.
That'd be great.
We'll be here.
I hear there's a new pavilion in the last couple of years to host that in.
The Dave Stott Pavilion over by the softball field, right?
Anybody else before we log off here?
Yeah, Gary, it's Sarah. How are you, man?
Sarah.
Hey.
How's your new job?
I'm liking it. It's I know it's not APL. APL has been an awesome place, but I am learning a ton about the government and hypersonics. So that's what it'll be a learning experience, that's for sure. But yeah, our original meeting was because I needed somebody who knew something about data acquisition. And lo and behold, there you were for our rocket team. But I think my favorite thing I learned was how much your bar was very in line with what our bar was. And I was like, we found our kindred spirit on how to have a great bar and be a good host that slightly peer pressures just one more drink or two. And so Russell and I have really enjoyed spending time with you and Denise at your house, and I look forward to more events like that and see you guys again.
Well, we just have to wait for the COVID to lift, right?
Yes.
Well, you're still.
Our bar is lonely too.
I got your email. You'll be on the list.
Sweet. Thanks, man. Enjoy retirement. We'll see you guys again, I'm sure.
Bye. Hello to Russ.
Okay.
And the girls.
Yes, the girls too. They love those magnets.
Hey, Gary, I just wanted to say thanks for supporting us on the ship. Even though we called you Scary Gary behind your back, we appreciated every day that you were there riding with us. And I know that was 20 plus years ago, but I still remember, even though I was an ensign. So thank you, and for everything you've done all over the years.
Yeah, I like being able to say that I supported the most decorated U.S. naval vessel ever.
So Tim must know the Scary Gary story. Tim, where did that come from?
I don't know. I think, well, honestly, Gary has always had long hair, and I think when he was dealing with this guy Dave Miner, who was extraordinarily animated, for lack of a better term, who had very short hair. I think he was always sort of threatened by that, even though he's a funny guy. And I think we all like Dave Miner a lot. I'm sure Gary would agree. It just seemed like that too. I think in general, I think that was something that sailors just did. Probably Gary did the same thing when he was a junior sailor. Because there was another rider that would come down that was not APL. He was the Mark 19 Gyrotech, and they made fun of him even worse because they called him Shaky Jake, and they were convinced that he could take, at least 200 volts from fingertip to fingertip and survive, because he'd shocked himself more times than anybody on Earth. So, yeah, I think that was just part of the culture. We always liked having Gary around, and who else would have brought us the DAC man with the ARG and the funny faces, right? That was always good for some entertainment as well on the ship. especially when you're out at sea for 3 months and it gets kind of boring after a while. So, you know, every now and then having the computer wake up and say ARG is a good thing.
Well, that software all still exists.
Hey, Gary, have you told the story yet about the long, you kicked off our long tradition of identifying issues with the ECDU software when you noted the acceleration was backwards on the, I think that was what it was. Maybe you can enlighten me.
I'm not sure. You might be talking about one of the fast attacks that was a B system where one of the rudder angles was off or something?
No, it was that, oh darn, I was hoping you would remember. It was the acceleration versus the velocity was wrong. They had a sign wrong in the, I believe.
It's all mush
It was
now.
the Doc George story, Gary.
What's that?
It tied back to your story with Doc George, the Cobb, because you told them their vertical acceleration was wrong.
Oh, that story. Oh, I don't like that story. I don't tell it very much. That was probably the worst. That was the worst 2-week underway I ever did because the captain didn't like me because that was the guy, he was on the Parchie and then he was the captain of the Jimmy Carter. And he didn't like me very much. And for some reason, he instructed the crew to not have anything at all to do with me. I was on board for 2 weeks and nobody would talk to me because the captain was pissed off. What happened was APL was asked to look, this was before the Jimmy Carter made its first deployment. It was still pre-deployment. And they were having trouble with their automated depth control system. And PMS, whatever they are, asked APL to go and see if we could help figure out what the problem was. And I spent the first 3 days underway, the first time we were underway with them, tapping into their ship control system so we could get the data and look at it. And after I did that, I just sat down and watched the operations. It only took me 10 minutes to figure out what was wrong because it wasn't reading vertical deflection. I'm sorry, it wasn't reading vertical velocity correctly and vertical acceleration. And when I pointed it out, the captain of the boat at that time blasted out an email because everybody was blaming everybody else for the problem. And when we really found out what the problem was, the captain blasted out an email, or I'm sorry, a Navy message out to a bunch of people. And then that kind of kicked back in his face because everybody asked him, well, what if that was sitting right in front of you, why didn't you see it earlier? So he ended up taking the hit for that because he never noticed that it was wrong, even though it was right on the display in front of him. So the next time I got underway with them, I got the silent treatment from everybody on the boat. And that was awful. And that was why I decided I am not riding boats anymore if this is the way I'm going to have to do it. So yeah, that's not one of my favorite stories, but it did happen.
Well, it was that kind of observation stuff that made you so valuable to all of the programs that you worked on. And it seems obvious to you, but it's amazing how people just don't see what's right in front of them. Thanks, Gary.
Well, thanks for bringing that up, Dave. That made my day.
Hey, Gary, this is Morris. There's been, a couple hours here of everybody talking about all your great professional contributions, and there have been many. And without belittling any of that, I just want to point out to everybody that, Gary really has been part of the social fabric here at the laboratory. And as exemplified by my particular case, I've been here 30 years, Gary. You and I are good friends, and we've only ever worked on 2 tiny little projects together. So it's
we have been on a lot of DESOs together.
We've ridden boats together, that's for sure. And I was on the Maine with you on that one too, with Pete Nanos, and Don Edens breathing in my ear when we were trying to get the picture down the wire. But you know, stopping by Gary's office is always good for a good discussion of some very interesting subjects, whatever your interest was. And from that standpoint, we're all going to miss you, and I certainly hope you keep in touch. And once COVID has lifted, I hope we can find a way to get together. And I, by the way, have the distinction. I'm the first person ever to have signed the ceiling in the Gray Mouse. The Gray Mouse had just about been finished, and Gary said, "Let's sign the ceiling," and everybody went, "You know, really? You want to do that?" I said, "I'll do it." And so, right smack in the middle of the Gray Mouse, you'll find my signature if Gary hasn't painted over it yet. And I hope we can all gather there again sometime. Good luck to you. Really enjoy retirement. Love to Denise.
Thank you.
Thanks, Morris. And no, I have not painted over the ceiling, and there are hundreds of signatures up there now. So I don't plan on painting over the ceiling. So I hope you can come back and put it up there again. And yes, you are the first one to sign the ceiling, and I have it on video. Are you surprised?
Cool. Not the least. Tacoma Cam and the Gray Mouse.
There you go. Well, good luck to you, Morris.
Thanks, Gary.
Yeah, Gary, we didn't get to work together too much, but definitely gonna miss you wandering in the lab early in the morning, and I always appreciated your salty demeanor. It made me feel like I was back in the Air Force or on a construction site. So definitely gonna miss that, and hoping to get an invite to the Gray Mouse Tavern someday.
We just have to wait for the restrictions to lift.
Yeah.
Well, best wishes to you and your family and your APL career.
Thanks, man.
See you.
Best to your retirement.
Thank you.
Gary, it definitely sounds like you're going to have to expand the Gray Mouse Tavern.
Well,
Sounds like it's going to be busy.
I haven't got the fire department in here yet to tell me how many people I'm allowed to have in here, but the most I think we've had was 49 at one time, and that was a blast.
I think you're going to have to blow out that back wall and build up underneath your deck.
Well, home improvements are part of the retirement plan.
Always are.
Thanks, Jim, and good luck to you.
Yeah, and Gary, thank you very much for the multiple years of camaraderie and discussions and everything. One of the first international travels that I had, excuse me, had to go with Gary out of the country. Well, it was through Canada, so not really international, but we were talking about work and
drinking beer.
And we were up in Canada already, and for some reason the two of us forgot to reset our watches, and we're on our second beer, I think, and we're thinking we have another hour, and all of a sudden over the intercom at the airport is like, Mr. Borrell, Mr. Pontius, please report to your gate. The plane's about to leave. And yeah, the fastest drinking beer we've had, and running to the airport gate. So, but
and we lost our good seats.
Yes, we did. But definitely good times over the many years. You've talked me through a lot of tough times and a lot of good times. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Jim, and I'll always remember Guam.
You had to bring that up.
Good luck to you and your wife. I know you're getting close yourself.
Getting there at some point in time, but yeah, definitely good luck to you and Denise. Have a good time, travel, get out there, and keep on sending those emails with your travels there.
Thank you.
So Brian, have you heard from John Tochko at all?
No.
Has anybody?
No.
He just fell off the face of the earth, huh?
Yeah, he's building houses somewhere.
Good for him.
Yeah, he described that to me one time. He says, you go hammer in a couple nails and then we go out and have beer. He's doing the Habitat for Humanity.
It's the way to do it.
Yep.
Nice.
Maybe I'll have to look him up, figure out how to do that.
Yeah. I'm going to run, Gary.
Thanks, Brian. It was nice seeing you again. We'll have to get together soon as all this stuff ends.
Absolutely. And
I'm looking forward to it.
Best wishes to you and Denise, and look forward to seeing you in person someday here shortly.
Yes.
Thank you.
Gary, it's Jill again. I have John Tochko's email address. I'll send it to you. I get in touch with him every year on his retirement date. So I'll shoot that over to you.
All right. Thanks, Jill.
He's also in the retirement book. That
Yes. You're right, Denise. Yeah, he's in the retirement book also, isn't he?
Mm-hmm. Everybody is.
Well, someday I hope to be listed in that as well.
Well, we'll be watching for your name.
Take good care.
You too.
Thanks, Jill. Anybody else? If not, I want to thank you all for coming. I didn't know what to expect today. I'll miss you all. Bye.
You haven't seen the last of us, Gary.
Have a good one, Gary.
All the best, Gary. Bye now.
Love the hair, Dave.
Hi, Gary.